anything. It's just a meeting, right? So my head is going in circles, going, how do I save money? Because then they're asking for more money over here, more money over there. And that's just after I finished another meeting on the phone that I didn't want to have because it was about something else that had to do with the work I had to do on Tuesday, which is supposed to be election day. I didn't know it was election day, and that for the Department of Health has all these things going on for schools, and they want the 3 Joules to do all these things for schools, and somehow I have to organize it because everyone else that's helping the 3 Joules is busy doing other things because they don't get paid. I don't get paid, but we're doing it. Lucky I don't get to tell you about my nature of mind in that way. Lucky we get to talk about wisdom. Right? This would be what we would have to talk about if we didn't have Asian Classics Institute courses. And that's just a few minutes of my mind. That is not this. And that is everybody else's mind, and I propose that's your mind. So for the next 2 hours, let's not do that. That's samsara, because we're looking at things that way. For 2 hours, we're doing movement towards nirvana, which is understanding things come this way until we get it. Is that cool? That was just a test. That's not, instead of doing interpretive dance. Did that help? Make a point? Stephen's looking at me going, why? Feliz Dia de los Muertos. Yeah?
Very nice.
Congratulatory, and thank you for reminding us. Okay.
Wait, wasn't it yesterday?
I thought it was, yeah. The concert was today, okay? Today.
Therefore, it is today.
Therefore, it is today.
Cool. It is today? Cool.
I thought it was the day after.
There we go.
Really?
It goes until today. Oh, I'm officially right and you're all wrong. Okay.
Just that I'd
But it was
that.
yesterday too. Yes.
And today, which is one big day.
Yes.
Thank you. No. So ladies and gentlemen, before we start, we want to put our minds not in the demonstration I just did, but in the idea that perfection is actually possible, but is not what you're thinking perfection is. Because if you did, you'd figure out how to get there, right? So there is a thing called perfection. We could get there, and we're pretending to know what that is in this, and creating the universe for a millisecond, imagining it as viscerally as we can with all its flavors, beings in this universe and the universe itself appearing perfect. And then we give it away to our internal vision of a guide, yeah, whatever's in your mind about that. That'll create a certain mental imprint in your mind. We start all these teachings with that idea that this can lead us there. So here we go. Yes, Steven.
Sashi
Puhi Jushin Metatra Vira Inshin Yinde Gampadi Sande Shindu Mite Luarki Drogen Namda Shinla Parsho Idam Guru Ratnamandala Kamiratayami
Sangye
Chidam Sohi Choknamba Janchu Bardu Dakmi Yarsuchi Dahi Shenyem Gipe Sanamki Drola Venchir Sangye Drupasho
Sangye
Chidam Soti Choknam Lam Janchu Bardu Dakni Yarsuchi Dahi Shenyem Gipe Sanamki Drola Venchir Sangye Driparsho
Sangye
Chidam Sogi Shoknam Lam Janchu Bardu Dakni Yarsuchi Dahi Shenyem Gipe Sanamki Drola Chil Sangha Let's do a quick meditation. After those two intentions in your mind, see if you can find yourself a comfortably seated position, your spine straight. Quickly scan your body so you park it and relax any tension there, especially around your face. Just gently begin to bring your attention to the breath, not controlling it, just observing it. Watch it fall out from your body naturally. When it's finished, naturally enter your body again. Follow that rhythm as if it's the very first time you've noticed it from an observer point of view. Do a few rounds of that. In the next 3 inhales and exhales, see if you can do your final adjustments to your posture and just park your body there. Tightly press your mind against your breath. It can be the sensation of your chest rising and falling, or it could be the sensation of the air through your nostrils. And then just make sure you park your body. And just like a hologram or a 3D image, see if you can manifest in front of you your perfect vision of a teacher, or your vision of a perfect teacher, real or imaginary. See if you can include as many of your senses to perceive that being in front of you. It's like a perfect match, a glove to a hand that's just yours. Feel free with your mind's eye to scan their presence there, the sensation, heat coming from their bodies. Maybe it's a light body, a translucent body, or a solid body, it's okay. And move up from their leg, torso, up to their face, until you see them looking at you. There's an intensity in their eyes, a kind of love that only you understand. They see you perfectly. And in their eyes, you're okay. There's no amount of weird thoughts you could have that will stop them from loving you. See if you can look at the details of their eye and feel like it's a window to their mind. their mind, you see the things you revere most about them. You want to show them every goodness, every beautiful thing you see. Make them some kind of mental offering. And sense their joy in experiencing that offering. And again, through their eyes, you see a quality of their mind that you revere most. Whatever it is, a kind of intelligence, a gentleness, kindness, and wisdom. Whatever it is that you revere most about them, see if you can feel that in your body as a joy. It means that it's possible for you to, precisely because you're imagining it in them. You see it in them. And in the beginning of this beautiful union between you and your teacher, see if you can remove any remnants of obstacles, any things in your mental continuum that would stop you from reaching them. Whether it's a thing you did that you're not proud of in the past, a doubt about yourself or others. Whatever it is in your mind that's in your conscience, for this moment, for this time, show it to your teacher and watch it disappear for this period. No longer an obstacle, but a clear path to them. See if you can generate the feeling of release for this moment. And of exhale from this obstacle. And now, rejoice in the very fact that you can perceive this teacher and any goodness at all. Imagine the causes inside of you that would allow you to perceive goodness at all in this world. Or the goodness that you have done in the past. Pick one. A kindness, a moment of wisdom and acceptance about yourself. Allow your mind to go there and show it to your teacher with joy. And feel it grow inside of you. It's a direct path to them. Now recognizing that the very presence of this teacher in front of you is a manifestation of some aspect of your mind. Ask them to please stay and teach you at every turn. Whenever you need it most, they appear. They stay close to you until you reach your goal. As you ask that, imagine them begin to rise up and get smaller, turn to face the same direction you're facing, until they are resting at the crown of your head just before touching. They get smaller and smaller, radiant with every goodness you've imagined. Before you withdraw from them, imagine their eyes one more time. gradually bring your awareness back to your body in this room. Allow the feeling of your meditation to linger just a minute. When you're ready, you can open your eyes and come back to the room. Thank you for doing that. The room is getting smaller. Hey, David. I haven't seen you forever. Is this you?
Really nice.
Not a projection.
Not a hologram.
Not a hologram. That's cool.
No, it's your camera.
Oh, thank you. You can't see him. Okay. Who was here last class? Sarah? And Aaron. Can Emmett and Stephen join the back room? We're just doing 3 groups. Emmett, Stephen in the back, Sarah on this side, Rachel and Aaron in this bottom left-hand corner. Just 3 groups. We're going to review last week's class, so you're all on track. So if you're in this corner of the room, move over to Sarah. If you're in the middle there, Stephen and Emmett. If you're in this corner, Aaron and Rachel are going to have that little group over here, right?
So we're all in the same group?
Yep, you and Aaron.
Great to see you. Okay.
We have 10 minutes to complete all the answers that are up here.
Did we go over result recognition?
Huh?
Whatever result.
Yes, we did. You weren't present. Yeah. We did the meditation result refuge last week, and then I explained it. Make sure you have your cheat sheets and make sure everybody's name goes on the thing, and that you share knowledge, please. And that you know each other.
Jay? Were you
Okay, so the first one is give us one definition of the perfection of wisdom.
A brief definition of the perfection of wisdom.
Yeah, and you I think I remember the is the no definition with the
So when you have that mindset, that
imbued with the wish for enlightenment for all.
that makes you a perfectionist. It's really weird that both perfectionists. But I mean, either way, I like writing this concept.
Kind of have these experiences, these things, and start to does not break together. Together, that is wisdom.
Right.
And so.
It doesn't necessarily have to be directly, so it's not necessarily a Buddha.
Emptiness directly or indirectly.
You got the answer.
Here you go. Another new touch.
It fits into the engine of all the other things. That's why this, after 2,000 years of debate in the Buddhist tradition, they've come to this idea. Yeah.
Okay, that works. Why exactly? Because it's the knowledge, because it's not, it's the knowledge of category of emptiness. And together have knowledge.
Let's take the ultimate definition.
That's the rules or the wishing or the different
Wish for enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings.
Right. Wait,
Completing the path.
this is first that like was over.
What's the traditional taking refuge?
So, definition of perfection.
The definition of person is contrast. Knowledge of a person of the greater way who has perceived emptiness directly or indirectly.
Yeah, maybe we should also say what Buddhist refuge is, because I'm not sure if the question is directly asking.
Correct.
So the knowledge.
Good point.
Definition of taking refuge.
Thank you.
There's no question, it's knowledge.
This is kind of almost like the Merriam-Webster.
I think that we should be. Can everyone do it?
Which side do you want?
Yeah, so it's a state of mind. Anybody else in the
So it's a state of mind
which anybody else in the perceives the suffering, fears that suffering. And also perceives that there is some relief from that suffering that can be offered by. The old challenge is have lots of wisdom, but until happiness is there, so it's not complete.
In this school, that's kind of taught as one of the measures of a good teacher. If you're looking for a teacher, one of the things you're supposed to observe in the person for 10 years or something. If they have a consistent,
Yeah, so the Buddhist
consistent quality,
school,
sort of
the idea
happiness
that
about
the
them.
Buddha's mind lacks any inherent nature that forced it to be
And then
complete.
like after all the time.
If that's true, then
And the
it's
living the
that
process of
my mind,
the teaching.
which we
Yeah.
are.
You said all at once. That's the state of mind, which shows relief.
Yes, one of them can offer a list of.
So that's
Next, those things.
also the.
What you're saying,
The jewel cards.
Pronounce the next one. Definition of.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, we it's not, it's here, maybe like this.
I think those are the definition of taking refuge.
Or-
What's
Renunciation.
the maybe I'm answering the question. I remember this, but.
So that's a, right, that's.
Well, that's like, it doesn't say desire refugees, just says give a definition of refugees.
Right, so those are the three scopes, right? So there's the.
That's all the answers.
But you must have the official action on there.
Yeah,
Not getting it.
I have them.
Describe result.
So you have the Buddha.
So we answered different
Hurry up, you don't have all the results.
Oh, this is not the state of mind.
The one that we started about so the idea that something.
Peter, are you cheating?
Yes.
Congratulations.
We call them you.
Yeah, you signed it.
It makes me happy.
I was kind of just saying it.
Yeah.
Imagining yourself as a.
Oh, blah, blah. Okay, my third
Like
one.
taking, doing another object.
That's not.
So it's mine is my key. I'm key from her.
That's.
Yeah.
is the shorter definition of a greater way at which for
Well, that's- you can have more informal way to say.
I agree.
Do you want to
Depending on that.
Yeah, so like we talked about it a little bit in like versus.
Put all your
that if you
individual
go a little
into some
bit
other
towards-
operation.
But then if you go really big at that.
Mahayana.
So the idea
Greater
of
way.
kind of experience.
That's it.
I'm not saying it's Spanish.
Thing that.
Okay, does everyone feel good about that? Or-
Yeah.
That's
Right, so go at first, would be where you make it.
And if it's true that a sacred text is empty.
Describe results, right?
And you
Describe the result.
Well, this really successfully getting a piece,
Yeah.
That's the Mahayana part of it.
and you get emotional support. It's all under the others. And one big one for me that's in the last year is taking the time. Will it be right?
And then the
That
third thing
talks to
is.
me. I can't feel about it, but that line is going to really help.
So that's the
Taking
kind
the
of.
faith in the family.
People around
For the sake of life.
Yeah, that we go a little bit deeper.
Good.
So stream and people can also go see them. Sorry.
That's one of the.
You have to first establish for yourself real knowledge that.
The slides are on the Facebook page, on the ACI Dharma. The slides, everything else is on the web page.
The result
So
Kind of like.
is defined as hoping
What
that
Facebook
one or
page?
more
The ACI Dharma, 3 jewels at ACI.
ASEC class or that three
So it
jewels.
says
Yeah.
no recognition is defined as hoping that one or more.
I don't know, maybe
individuals
it's a private group, though.
Yeah, people should join it if they're doing ACI classes.
Yeah, I don't know how to
can
use
take
it,
their
so
own
honestly,
in their own future directly.
you know, it becomes
It's
complicated
just-
when you think
And
of
the search bar, but ACI.
I wrote down here where I should go and I said, that's what I wrote down. So, they take on it is like the pieces of people whose karmic vitality is like totally like.
And the actually,
That is not a way that anybody's ever talked to me, it's just my interpretation.
and because
But
like
you,
we're not like seeing.
Does that show it up there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's that group?
Oh, okay.
What's it called? ACI classes at 3 jewels.
The genetic part of
It looks like that.
So I have to, like, I have to get in that group, right?
Yeah, you see the, can you click on the search bar?
Okay. No, really.
That'll be the slides. Yeah, it'll be there.
Thank you.
You see, I put them up there.
Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, it's just not filled out. Like, it's not
Yeah, they get on.
They don't believe it.
It's not inherent.
It's
not
It's coming from your.
Show me someone.
I'm sorry, I'm just. But it's a valid point.
It totally is, but we should,
Yeah, we have one more. Understand.
If the short talking about the shorter definition of the greater way the short definition of the greater way. Yeah, it's
Okay.
I know, right?
it's a good old 11 o'clock.
That's because like the laws of karma, like apply that.
Total enlightenment.
So we could write
What keeps us
As opposed to just pure enlightenment, not
You don't have to worry, it's like. So maybe, I don't know, maybe it's your home, which is like.
Hey, what did you say?
And then there's a longer, so it's kind of.
All the scriptures.
You'd have to look in the reading. It's a but yeah. What you're talking about, what did you say?
Yeah.
You go in there and it's a it's got two double things, so time doesn't get screwed up. We just are good with that.
You're done.
Are you ready? Ladies and gentlemen, it's time. You guys killed it.
We get some sort of
Apparently,
prize, like
they're
a-
very short. You eat your banana, you're good. Yeah. Something different about you. What is it? You look really good. You look really pretty. I mean, you normally look pretty. All right. Yeah. Something. That's what it is. It looks nice.
So now what?
Or you could go and help the other group and disrupt them.
It sounds like like Sama is I used to love qualities.
Would you guys think that you might have like encouraged that? Pretty sure.
Because this is emotional.
Yeah, I don't know. I keep seeing it moving.
Give a shorter definition of But in the greater way was just what you were talking about.
Yes. Practical. No.
We don't knew that there were moments when you laughed.
Self-pity, self-wish.
Did we do the right foot down?
I don't know. This is only 4 questions long.
It's a short quiz, yeah.
Hector, I have a question.
Yeah.
Result
It's the, okay, you tell me.
I thought it was taking refuge in the image and capability of yourself
But I
to
think
become a
it's
Buddha, like you as a Buddha.
It's your future enlightenment. You take refuge in the 3 jewels as they are existing in you in your future enlightenment. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
There was some confusion around, like, no, it's just the direct perception of emptiness. So
No.
you perceiving emptiness.
That's interesting.
No, that just gives you 2 of the 3 jewels.
Right.
If you take refuge in yourself, having already seen emptiness, you don't yet have omniscience, so you can't see yourself right now,
I think.
right?
It's
It's just a side point.
It's bodhicitta. So like.
I just felt like it was We did really good.
So is.
You guys did really good?
Is it just saying like?
Yeah, like we've been done for like
You're
an
like-
hour.
Yeah, we did. Hello. ¿Cómo estás? Why? You're leaving? You hate our class? Everyone, he hates our class. It's his last class. Why? Don't go on tour. This is way more important. Tour ain't getting your life. I know you have to have a job.
When?
Christmas. I'm not self.
At least you'll be here when we do like the grand opening,
Yeah, we won't miss you.
because we're gonna have a New Year's Eve.
Like step by step.
What?
Can you
What's that?
can you message us or something? Don't just watch the YouTube. Like send us a message.
No, we won't.
won't.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, or text us.
I'm not touring.
He has a bunch of pictures of his face that he could give us.
I will, yeah, I'm around the
Maybe we should invite him to the God meeting on Saturday, just so you can get a taste of what he's not going to be able to do for the next Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and, yeah, after there.
Yeah, I understand. Believe me.
But that's one of the, don't piss off the Lord of the land.
Yeah, yeah. The local spirits.
Yeah.
The landlord.
Yeah.
Okay, ladies, it's time. Ladies, I mean Rachel. Meaning, come on.
What?
She's a man.
They should return to their seat.
Shave your mustache.
It's Alexis more.
Yeah, please. And go to haircut.
Really?
What? Actually, black tea.
I didn't even
And then they do that. I don't like it.
So
Weird, right? You can see my lips.
it looks like they just like
They went. I'm like, okay, I can feel my lips.
Yeah.
very strange.
Rachel is collecting your quizzes. If you have done homeworks, Rachel is also collecting your homeworks.
And putting them in a very large folder in my closet.
And
No, we have to get them all marked. Bring him on Saturday, we'll do it together.
yes, we
No,
will.
it's gonna take so long.
So long as the Chinese one.
No, it will happen, but I'm gonna find someone who is interested in entering
You're
it
interested?
into my Excel spreadsheet.
I can enter them all in place.
That's good, you have 2 volunteers.
I'm really good at spreadsheets.
Yes.
Sarah, you've got the difficult group, I understand.
I'm really good at other
She's over there.
things.
Okay, heady, Buddhist words, blah, 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 not the point, okay? Buddhist words is not the point. All this stuff, especially the review class, please, you got to find a meaningful way. You have to learn it. So I'm happy you are learning the words. I am happy you're going to the cheat sheets and trying to understand what schematic did Tsongkhapa, Jay Tsongkhapa, Buddha, and all the beings between us and them come to realize in their meditations, in their study, in their debate, and have given us for us to understand. You have to get that. That's level 1. It's like learning the alphabet. You've got to know how to do numbers and letters and shapes. But after that, you got to know how you produce words with those things so it's meaningful to you. Okay. So although you gave me good definitions, I'm assuming because I was hearing you, and you're beginning to get these ideas in your head. The ideas in your head is just a map. It's not the reality. Okay. So when you define bodhicitta, it isn't the experience of bodhicitta, but it will give you a way to get there. So this part is your part. I can show you the easy part, which is getting you to the ancient texts to avoid you wasting 20 years to find out what would bodhicitta mean? What does a perfection of wisdom mean? Well, here are 4 examples of what the perfection of wisdom means. It means yum, the collection of texts referring to emptiness. What else does it mean? It means the sixth perfection. What else does it mean, right? And we've saved a lifetime at least figuring out perfection of wisdom means these things. But how do I use it? Yeah. Bottom line is, what's the definition of the perfection of wisdom?
The knowledge.
The knowledge. So it's some stuff in your mind, right? The person of a greater way, dude or dudess who wants to make everybody else happy. Yeah. What else?
And has emptiness.
Yeah, so something to do with emptiness, right? Cool. So you've got to figure out it's got to have those components, and that's how you perfect. And now, when we talked about, and I won't digress. Bottom line, we are on class 2 of the refuge course, and you have to, before leaving today, you have to know the difference between refuge that isn't refuge, the refuge we are all taking all the time in things that don't protect us permanently, right? Things that protect us temporarily. You do get protection. You do, when you seek refuge in the police, in the lawyer, in the umbrella, in the avoiding the truck that's coming your way. When you go for refuge in those things, you are taking refuge, and sometimes, not all the time, it protects you. But it doesn't protect you if it does it sometimes. So the difference between that refuge and Buddhist refuge, real refuge, there are 5. Do you remember the 5 refuges? I taught them last week. No, we don't remember. But I asked you in the test 1 refuge of those 5, which was resolve refuge. Cool. So what's Buddhist refuge in general, as opposed to the regular refuge? It's something, right? The 3 jewels are Buddha, Dharma, Sangha jewel. And that don't protect you if you think Buddha is the dude in the paintings, if it's the statues, whatever. Dharma, meaning the books, those ideas, they don't protect you if they're outside of you, right? So ain't no book there gonna protect you. No tanka gonna protect you. And Sangha is all the monks and nuns who walk around saying, I'm so spiritual. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But in the highest understanding of what reality constitutes, in the highest explanation of that is something in you is projecting that reality. Yeah? And understanding that, you can only understand that if you understand emptiness, which we'll get to talk about today. So the real protection is something to do with emptiness and the Buddha, emptiness and the Dharma, emptiness and the Sangha, right? Bottom line, let me save you 6 years of study in the Asian Classics Institute courses, which you can only get if you studied them, and then you can save time. It's all about karma and emptiness, yeah? If you really understand emptiness, you must understand karma. If you don't, you don't, yeah? It was taught to us in the 3 principal paths. So something about the Buddha jewel, which ultimately refers to the mind of a Buddha has a nature that is the same as the mind that you are observing with right now, right? Which means your mind is empty of being the way you think it is, and the Buddha's mind is empty of being the way it thinks it is. Because it's empty, the projections can operate as reality. That's all reality is. There's no other reality. There's no reality separate from the experience you're having. You're forced to project karma, right? They're just fortunate because they got rid of all the shitty projections. You, if you are what you seem to be, and we are in the place that it seems to be, don't have that fortune. Our projections are forever fluctuating, and eventually they go. And you have to reset and do it all over again. That's called samsara, yeah? But at the essence, the fact that we're projecting a reality and our mind is projecting that reality on who we think we are, the fact that our mind doesn't have a stable nature of being a certain way by its own side, separate to our projections, means that we can have the mind of a Buddha. That in itself, that's real protection. That really protects you from every suffering if you get it. If you pursue it and then you have to do stuff to it, just like, oh yeah, that's good, I'm protected. No. Yeah. Does that make sense? And then the Sangha jewel is those beings who have had that realization viscerally, non-conceptually. Yeah. So it's so much in their being that they walk around acting in accord to that realization. Those beings can protect you too. They save you lifetimes of wasted time. It's not an easy path until you get to a specific part of the path that just makes you stream on. So let's review a quick summary of that. We talked about that. So the bottom line is some realization in you protects you. There's no separate thing out there that's going to do that to you. Yeah. Real refuge actually stops samsara, the cycles of patterns that trip us over and over and over. A protection will stop that. That's refuge. And you've got to get to that in whatever way you're tripping up right now. The way you can see that is, where am I tripping up right now? I can tell where I'm tripping up right now. I'm getting old and fat, and it's hurting my mind because I think of it in a certain way, which means I don't apply wisdom to it. So I'm going to try and apply these things to that experience because it's meaningful to me. Or if some loved one is sick right now, I'm applying it to that. Yeah? Or if I broke up with the girlfriend, and I never had a girlfriend, right? But then I'll apply it to that. Actually, I did have a girlfriend. Not never. I was happy I broke up. Because now I've got a boyfriend. Oh, you can be happy about it.
Nothing in this case.
No, nothing. Thursdays is a long day for Stephen. Yeah. There are many classes going on, but I'm also in that class, the one here. What I need to tell you is like the grand majority of our unexamined life is like this. We're lost on the technology and we are like zombies to death. Sorry, it's true. Yeah, and it really is. Don't pretend it isn't because your life is going well for a minute, okay? Because it ain't lasting. It's horrible to tell you, but it is the way it is. Yeah, so that means you're not even on the path. Yeah, if we're living an unexamined life, our evolution is just zombie-ness. More cycles of the same, over and over and over. Why the hell is that? Right? And again, bottom line of Buddhist practice, which is not like you should be a Buddhist because Buddhist is good. No, call it banana peel. I don't care if you don't call it Buddhism. I don't call it, if you don't care, call it Buddha. If the fact of these things are true and they can protect you, call it the hell you want, but use them to protect you and free you. Because if you do, you can free the planet, really, literally. There's nothing else to do once you get that as a possibility. There isn't anything else to do but to figure out how quickly I can go there. Because if you logically get that this is where we're at over and over and over after the death reset button, if you get that, because you've studied past and future lives, or you're beginning to get that idea, or you know you're coming and you have these impulses, then you want out of that. And that wanting out of that, testing course 1+1, is wanting out of that is, oh, you're good, excellent. Sorry, people are listening. Yeah, you are like, I don't want that, right? Now, if that's good and your motivation is renunciation, it's like, I don't want that. You see the window, something in your mind shifted, right? I'm going to apply the depth of Buddhist knowledge that you already have. The world is your projection, yeah? So in your projection upon emptiness, you see a window that says to you, it is possible to have a path out. You would get renunciation, meaning I don't want that. I'm sick and tired of that. I want out. Now, that's renunciation would get you to the first path, right? Which is the path of accumulation. It means you begin to say, I want to generate enough goodness, because the world is my projection, that I will be able to project the steps towards nirvana, towards enlightenment, towards Buddhahood, towards freedom. Freedom from what?
Samsara.
Yeah, the cycles, the pre-path. Yeah, it's possible to change. You get a little window that says, whoa, it's possible. So then you would get this urge to do it. You want out. Now, if your motivation was a little wider, you would get that same renunciation, but focused towards other people as well, right? And that would be bodhicitta, renunciation towards you and others, basically bodhicitta. I want to reach enlightenment for the sake of me and everyone else. Yeah? This is the way I think about that step. When I was working in offices for way too many years and doing way too many boring tasks that I knew would never amount to anything within 5 years, that would disappear and my life would be wasted if I thought of it a certain way, which is, oh, just achieve that. Yeah, I achieved it. It's gone, right? The energy that you put towards a task is exactly the same if your motivation was crappy or good or bad. Like the same work, the same number of keystrokes had to go into the email. The same number of years had to go into the project planning. The same number of, but what could change the scope was my intention behind it, my motivation behind it. So if I'm going to do the same keystrokes, if I am going to spend 6 years, 10 years, 5 years, 20 years, whatever it is, trying this path, because I know how the other one ends up, then why not just open up my motivation and develop that too? No effort, no extra effort. It's just thinking about the same activity in a different way. And in fact, it gets you there faster. Because if everything is karma and emptiness, meaning karma being your action of body, speech, and mind to the world, and you know a little bit about karma, which is the bigger the intention, or the bigger, or more important, the object, or the broader the scope, the more powerful the seed you just planted in your mind. Yeah, it's a Jack in the Beanstalk seed versus a little poppy seed. Yeah, that one I'm assuming, I know it's fictional, would grow quicker and so on. Yeah, and bigger and the rest.
They grow fast, yeah.
Huh?
They grow fast.
Yeah, really fast. It's overnight, right?
Yeah.
But you see, the object to which you're doing your activity is the whole world. That's a bigger object than just little me. So you're sort of using the technology of intention to get you a faster result. Sidetrack. Yeah. So basically, you are here realizing that there's something not quite right in this world, and there is a possibility that it could be different. Let everybody else do the way it doesn't work because they've always done it as you have. Yeah, let them all do it. Try something new. Very quick questions, otherwise I'm pressing the button.
Even if it's just a reference to go check out my own, is there a Mahayana proof of other beings?
Yeah, of other mind streams? Absolutely. Yeah.
Is that in course 5?
It was like Dharma Rakshita or someone.
Yeah, there's actually a whole
The text.
that describes the proof of other mind streams.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's Dharma Rakshita.
I think it is Dharma Rakshita, but I don't have it top. But it's worth investigating if that's where your mind wants to go in order to help those other beings that could or could not come from your consciousness. Right? Cool.
If I'm real.
So if you are stepping onto this path because you saw a window coming from you, because of some goodness you've done in the past, that it's possible to get out of samsara cycles, and you enter it with either motivation, just I need to stop. That's all I can master. I need to stop my own suffering. That's cool. Why not do it for everyone else? If you can master that, that's cool too. Yeah. Then you need to begin to study what reality is all about. And that enters you into the path of preparation. You begin to prepare to have an ultimate non-conceptual experience of reality. Yeah. And that preparation path includes, it's not a metric ton. It's some other ton that Aaron taught me yesterday. It's a big ton. It's a lot of study, and a lot of virtue, and a lot of service. It's a lot of investigating with that motivation intact. Yeah. Oh, by the way, how do you know what's the text that we studied on course 1 and 2, the first 2 classes in this course? Yeah, in the Lamrem, Lamson, how do you know you've actually achieved the path of accumulation? What was some couples? Yeah, when you begin to think about it night and day, or day and night, whichever you want to do. Basically, you become obsessed night and day, 24/7. You're thinking how to apply this thing. How do I get out of this? This is tripping me up. I hurt someone else again, or someone hurt me, or that didn't work out, and there's that crap on TV, or whatever it is, and you're like done. It must come from something else. I know that. I get that sense. I'm building. Now, it doesn't mean that once you're in the path of preparation, you're not still working on the path on accumulation. You're still working on your renunciation. It's okay to have overlap over the paths. It's not this causes that. Okay? We're good so far?
Yeah.
We're preparing, meaning we're putting imprints in our mind that will let us experience reality in its ultimate form. And through logic and reasoning, we've studied what the ultimate nature of reality actually is. When we try and find something that is over there, separate from me, that is a thing that caused me to be a certain way, or because your words did something to me. When I go and analyze those things out there, I come up, when I try and find them, I come up empty. I come up blank. All you have to do in this path is figure out that enough times for you to get sick and tired of looking, right? And this is like the path of science, right? So I can find the emptiness of the flower, which is flower coming this way or flower coming that way, right? And you go and analyze it, right? If this had flower and it was pushing out flower, if this was the cause of flower, everything that touched it must experience flower because it is the source of flower. We got that, right? Yeah. The fact is that bees see it as food, or death trap for tiny, tiny, tiny insects, or flower for us, or allergic reaction for others, or it is a myriad of things dependent on, ultimately dependent on the perceiver, right? Something in us, which is mental imprints we've learned, right? Now, so the study of that is this path of preparation. You're preparing to have a non-conceptual experience of that. But if you're like me and you want to waste 12 years, then I had to do that with that and go, yeah, I get that. And then when my teacher said, everything else is exactly the same. So then I wasted a bunch of time on everything else that's physical, going, are the glasses like that? Let me go through it. Are these glasses this way or that way, right? So then I'd have to go and think about it for months, right? The glasses. No, but they help me every time I see. They're seeing, and so they are glass. I mean, they're helping me, and they are doing. So I think about that with the glass, and eventually I realize that other creatures don't see that as glasses, right? And then I have to do it about the computer, then I have to do it about the piece of paper, and then I have to do it about the book, and then I have to redo it about the pen. By the time I do it about the pen, I forgot about the flower. So I have to go back to the flower. You can waste that time, or if that's what you need, then that's what you need. And then you forget that the world is not just physical objects. That all things in the universe are not just physical objects. So then you go, damn it, what about my thoughts? Are they coming from their own side, or are they also a projection? What about my feelings? What about all the mental stuff? Then you have to go and do that investigation. Do things have a nature from their own side, and are they just so, just the way I experience them? And you always, when you go digging and digging and digging, and there's something like so many proofs of emptiness, but in these courses we talk 5 main proofs of emptiness: the sliver of diamond, the proof of one or many, the king of reasoning, blah, 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 right? All of you remember those, right? Right, those will help you analyze all your objects to find their ultimate nature. We're going to go and find them. And you always come up blank. There's something else. And when you're sick and tired of looking, because you're like, okay, it's either everything must be empty, because every time I do this analysis, I come up that way. That doesn't mean you've had a direct experience of that. You have a logical experience of that. That is hard to think about because we were brought up in a different way of looking at the world. Flower is a collection of atoms with a certain amount of light, and that's what a flower is, and I believe it. Right? And as soon as you break that reasoning, you're in trouble because your whole world breaks down. Yeah? So, once you do that enough and enough and enough, and still accumulating a bunch of virtue, doing good stuff in the world to try and get that for real, why? Because it delivers you to enlightenment, nirvana, whatever you want to call it. Not afflicted. Yeah? Not afflicted. The delivery vehicle, this takes you to enlightenment. We'll get to that today. We'll talk about nirvana. Okay. Because you understand the old way doesn't work, and I can see it because we have a history on this planet of it not working. And this might work. You're not sure yet. It might work. But logically, you can see if flower comes from here, and I like flower, then something good here produced a good there. If I hate flower, something bad here produced that. Who put all this stuff in here? You. Yeah, it's in your mind. When you get to it, you realize, and this is what that study is, karma and emptiness, dependent origination and emptiness. Yeah? You realize, oh my goodness, everything I do, say or think, is creating these imprints in my mind. Trillions of imprints, millisecond by millisecond, your mind is working. And every tiny sub-intention is recorded in there. And it grows like a virus, like Stranger Things. No one's been watching? Okay, some people's been watching. We just finished series 2. At the end, sorry, at the very end, David, David's like, inside of each of you is trillions of imprints that you've been recording consciously since you've been born here. If you understand past and future lives, your consciousness has imprints from way before, more than a metric ton, for time without beginning, and they are in you right now, all of them, multiplying and multiplying and multiplying. You learn that there intellectually. Yeah? You realize sometime after that they are producing your reality. Until then, you get to think about it. If that is something I like, then whatever it was that forced my experience of this, because we know it didn't come this way, whatever flavor was here was in me. How do I get those flavors in there? 3 flavors, by the way: negative, positive, and neutral. Yeah? Every action, you can divide in extremes of those flavors. You're recording them by every reaction and every action you do. They are the course of your world. Studying in here gives you the technology to decompose that world, and then you get to do experiments. For me, it was the Angry Boss experiment, and when it worked, blew my mind. I can't do your experiment. You got to do your experiment. When you get the experiment, you might understand it a little deeper. At some point, you do enough of those experiments, or you activate the trillions of seeds for wisdom you already have, because if your consciousness has been existing for time without beginning, you already have every seed you need to wake up. You're just currently locked in a loop of samsara that has a certain limitation to it. It's not naturally that way. It's projected too. So you can activate the seeds for wisdom by studying deeply and acting in accord with your logic and your study. It's worth the experiment, because the other way doesn't work. Sorry.
So I'm sorry that had to derail.
Samsara is empty.
Yeah.
If it wasn't, you couldn't
Yeah,
change it.
Yeah.
Yeah? You'd be stuck. We'd be stuck. May as well dance. Yeah? Or dance.
If it wasn't
Dance.
We could dance. Sorry, 1980s song reference. It's moving in circles, you might be like Samsara. At some point, you have collected enough virtue, put inside, imprints in your mind, enough goodness, enough habituation around this concept of karma and emptiness, how reality ultimately is, and what the hell is it that makes it the way I'm experiencing it. And with your experiments, you get to figure out, I'm going to try and create enough virtue, enough goodness, because I've got renunciation, I'm done with the old way, I want a new way. All these seeds are now in you, and they will pop into the path of sin. This is the shortest of these paths, moments where you have a direct, non-conceptual understanding of what produced not just the flower, but your entire experience of self and other. Yeah? You are no longer witnessing yourself. This only happens in deep meditation, which means before that, you've got to learn how to meditate. You get to a point of stillness. You get to a point of stillness with wisdom, vipassana, right? In order to have that experience. You can't force it. You can just be there for it. You're not there for it as you.
The path of seeing is vipassana. Like, you practice it?
The vipassana is meditation on wisdom, right? So single point of concentration, complete stillness with wisdom, right? When you are no longer meditating and your mind is in that experience, it is the path of seeing. It's the direct perception of emptiness. You're not sitting there meditating. You are no longer projecting a third-party experience of the ultimate nature of reality. You are, it's wrong to say, but you are in that moment the ultimate nature of reality. Yeah, you are in communion. I don't want to say those words, but it's the closest I can tell you. Okay? It's a very short experience. It's a visceral experience, non-conceptual experience of all the stuff you've learned about karma and emptiness. Is that okay so far?
What does that mean, non-conceptual?
It means you're not sitting there with your mind going, is it this or is it that? You're not analyzing it. You're not grabbing and creating a model of what it is. You're in what it is. Yeah? So a non-conceptual, let me describe lemon to you, okay? And if you've never tasted lemon, lemon is this and that. But if you've tasted lemon, your mouth is watering because you've had a non-conceptual experience of lemon. Yeah? Cool. It's the opposite of lemon, by the way. It's not like that. It's like,
Do you train the path of seeing by doing vipassana meditation?
you're doing that stuff over here. Yeah, you're doing all that stuff over here. Here, you're not doing anything. You would have sat down to meditate, and at that point where you've entered the direct experience of emptiness, that path, the teachers say, takes 15 minutes. Yeah, you're not quite like that, Stephen. I know.
There's no, I think what she's asking is like, what type of meditation do you habituate so that you can perceive emptiness directly?
Yeah, is that what you're asking?
I'm saying, I
don't think that's what she's saying.
So do you do vipassana?
Do you, by the meditation you do before perceiving, train yourself to perceive emptiness, vipassana. Is that what you should do? Like, in other words,
It depends what you mean by vipassana. Okay. It depends. It's not vipassana retreats as some people teach them. Sorry. Okay. Sorry, but it isn't. It is a meditation on emptiness, about the emptiness of yourself. And you have to have training in the meditation of emptiness, and you can't get there until you have stillness. You can't get there until you have shamatha. Okay? And you need to train on a bunch of other meditations before you get there.
Yeah. And you can't get, like, you won't have access to those meditations unless you are keeping your ethics so perfectly that they start to work.
Correct. You can sit there and try and force your mind onto something, but if everything is a projection, the experience of wisdom can only come from the goodness you've planted in your mind through taking vows or keeping some kind of immaculate morality to not harm the world, because you understand that the world isn't the way it appears to you. If you're afflicted, if your mind is afflicted, if it has mental afflictions, and nirvana is the removal permanently of all mental afflictions, after this point, you get a direct realization, you become an Arya, you get a direct realization of 4 key ideas that were taught by the Buddha the first time he taught. And these are the 4, originally translated as the 4 noble truths, but once you study, you realize they are called the 4 Arya truths, yeah? The truths of an Arya, the truths of a being who has had that direct experience of emptiness. I'll describe that moment again. After that direct experience, you have a kind of descending sensation back into your meditation seat, a kind of back, because you're not in this realm in that meditation. Your mind goes into the first level of the form realm. Yeah, that you've got to study. So you're not really in this realm. Your mind is no longer here. People can prod your body, put fries underneath, and you are like not there. Yeah, your mind has gone to another realm, has a direct experience of the ultimate nature. Once that experience is done, depending on your motivation, which if it had bodhicitta is one thing, if it didn't, it's another thing. You have a sensation of descending back into this thing, and very quickly, the reality that you knew before, this reality of you seeing yourself and everything around you begins to infect you again, begins to assert itself because it's an old habit, not because it is that way. Yeah, your mind begins to create those projections again, and the big difference now is you no longer believe that to be true. There ain't no flower there. You begin to have, in the next 12 to 24 hours, a series of realizations which are grouped into 4 big ideas, which is what we're going to talk about soon. Sorry, I got digressed. Once you then act in the world in accord with that experience, you begin to habituate yourself, your reality, in what you saw. The reality of what you saw, I'll cover in just a second, okay? And then you begin the path of habituation, which means, oh my goodness, I just saw the code in the matrix. I just saw that the world ain't coming this way. For real, there was never an angry person that made me angry. I created every suffering. There was something in me that forced that experience. I'll cover that in a second, okay? And then the last thing you want to do when negativity comes your way is to be negative back, because that will plant more, because you know the code now that will just create imprints in your mind with those other trillion seeds that are forcing a negative experience. So the last thing you want to do, for real now, not intellectually, because you tasted lemon, you know what it tastes like, you no longer are going to go and do the activities that will create your suffering. And from that moment on, you're on a conveyor belt out, because you have a direct realization of how your world operates. That path of habituation means you begin to clean out the negativity that is stored in you or deactivate it. You have 2 options really, right? You can live out all your shitty karma that you've ever done, all the trillions of negativity, you can just let it come up. Or with wisdom, you can begin to destroy its power by doing way more virtue, so they get so buried and decommissioned that they will remain dead, dormant. Yeah, you don't see it course that way because you've removed its root, ignorance. Yeah, so the path of habituation is the latter. Yeah, you don't see it there, and they'll both deliver you to. It's not really a path. It's called no more learning. Yeah. Now, that is enlightenment. Okay, yeah, they're gay. Yeah.
Also, quick short question, man. Just where do you find the scriptures or whatever is on the real Vipassana meditation?
You would go I'm trying to think, it's not in ACI 3. You would go to the knowledge base. Actually, no, it is in ACI 3, and it's in the daily practice stuff in the ACI courses. Yeah. Mahamudra is one of them. It's the emptiness of your own mind. That would be a good place to go. Mahamudra course. Yeah, no problem. So let me just ask you, what is enlightenment? Good, that's the definition of
Nirvana.
Nirvana, right? So enlightenment, depending on your motivation, right? If you did all that work, all the keystrokes, and your motivation was one of the first two scopes, let's say, I want to get out of suffering of lower rebirths, or I want to get out of suffering of samsara, if with that motivation you did this activity, you would end up in a nirvana, which is the permanent cessation of mental afflictions. Yeah? If you did it with a motivation to help every other being, you would get the permanent cessation of all mental afflictions, and you get
Bliss.
yeah, total nirvana, right? You'd get you both get bliss. Both get you bliss. You are you have no longer seeds in your mind. After this work, you get rid of every seed that could possibly harm you.
Is that the same thing as bliss?
Yeah, but the only thing that remains is bliss and neutral. Yeah? And if you experience neutral as negative, it ain't neutral. Okay? So it's bliss if it's permanently removed.
That's nirvana.
That's nirvana, the permanent cessation of all mental afflictions, meaning there is never a movement of your mind that would cause you any suffering. No afflicted experience, no hurting, no don't like it, no I have to get out of it. None at all. You have bliss. Oh, this is nice. Same input, experience on that input, blissful, happy, cool, nice.
But if you add the wish to that?
If you add the wish to that, you then get what? Buddhahood, total enlightenment, right? We'll cover it, okay, in a sec. I just want you to question it as you get there. Because you will see reference in scripture that says, oh, they are an enlightened being. But it depends which school is talking, whether it means they've reached nirvana or enlightenment, Buddhahood. There's the same word. Yeah, they've reached enlightenment. You don't know which enlightenment.
Does that omniscience mean seeing every other sentient being as Buddha as well? And as similar to like result refuge? But your omniscience, you also see them suffering in the moment.
Good question. It's a really hard debate, worth spending a lot of time in. Let's go to nirvana. Okay?
Let's go to nirvana.
Let's go to nirvana. There was a sound effect which you never got. Okay. Someone repeat the Tibetan, and I think it's worth me telling you. Someone? Anyone?
Yundrip, Malupar, Pampe, Sosor,
Tango. Cool. Nundrup is mental afflictions. Malupar is in its entirety or in entirety. Pampe is eliminated. Sosor. Do you remember that one? Sosor Kevo? Sor. Do you remember that? Come on.
Sounds familiar.
Okay, one by one. Tango is seeing four Arya truths. So what does it mean? Here is your definition of nirvana. The permanent cessation in which one has eliminated the mental affliction obstacles in their entirety due to one's individual analysis. Okay. My goal for this class was to make it real for you, but you've got to understand that after thousands of years of debate and reasoning and meditating and experiences, the people we've come to learn this from have agreed that this is a correct definition of nirvana. Now you're going to get a bunch of definitions of nirvana, but this would be one that fits the school we're studying. And the one we're studying, Majjhimika Prasangika, tells you that the world is dependently arising, and it's dependent on your projections, your karma. Other schools might tell you, and other schools of thought, not just Buddhists, will tell you that they don't know about that, but they know that things have parts, or that things have causes and conditions, and they're going to go down that rabbit hole, and I'm saving you a trillion lifetimes, okay? By understanding that the ultimate nature of things, they are dependent on the way you are forced to perceive it. That's what we're teaching in this course, and that's worth studying. Anything else you want to study ain't being studied here except as an adjunct to prove this point. Is that cool? We understand that? Cool. So what would individual analysis be? Hmm? What would it refer to? Let's break it down. The permanent cessation, we got permanent, right? What does that mean? Forever, right? Cessation means gone forever, okay? In which one has eliminated, bye-bye, yeah? Thrown away.
Yeah.
The mental affliction obstacles, things in your mind which cause you problems, yeah? Mental affliction obstacles. By the way, the mind is also what produces everything. This is key. In their entirety. So we've got rid of them forever and in totality.
So it's the habits of planning bad karma and the bad karmas themselves.
That's cool.
And the tendencies.
Nice. And the tendencies.
Is tendencies the same as habits?
Yeah.
In regular language, yes. I'm not sure about Tibetan language whether there's a differentiator. Okay. Due to one's individual analysis, thinking of the 5 paths that I covered, I hinted at it. I just want to see if you caught it or something. What would you be analyzing? What's the individual analysis?
Your world. Like, isn't it?
When would you reanalyze your world in those 5
And
paths?
it's half of preparation.
It's the
You begin to study it intellectually, but then you have a direct experience, right? And it's the path of habituation. Actually, just at the end of the path of seeing, I said you have this short experience of the 4 truths, 4 Arya truths, right? It's your individual analysis of those realizations immediately after seeing emptiness directly. Excellent. And in a visceral, non-conceptual level, you come to realize 4 things, right? So here, it's the realization of the 4 Arya truths following the direct, non-conceptual experience of the way things truly exist. Yeah, we're referring to your reality. I know there are a lot of words, but it means at some point you realize, like we did the example of the flower, that there never was a flower and there isn't a flower there. That there's something in me forcing me flower for real. That's what makes it real. A flower that was out there forcing itself on me could never exist, has never existed. It's impossible. And that is true for you, for David, for Peter, for Stephen, for everybody. The way you think you are is just like the flower. You're not this way. That's bullshit. You are this way for real because you are forced to experience yourself this way because of mental afflictions that you've put in there, trillions of them, because you don't understand where things come from, which keep you in the cycle of doing the same over and over and over and over. No idea that there's another possibility, so you keep doing this possibility. And you think that's the way it is. But after having a direct, non-conceptual experience of the way things ultimately exist, something breaks. You see it, the curtains open. You see the code directly, and you come down and you have the first of the 4 Arya truths, which is life is suffering. You see suffering for what it is. What's suffering? Ultimately, in the way things are really happening, which is projections. Suffering is that everything you like disappears. Everything you don't like, exactly, it's like this impermanence. You realize that your every existence, you are coded. There isn't suffering out there. You just saw that there's nothing out there in the way you thought it was. You realize that you are coded to see suffering. You are a machine projecting suffering. It wasn't that the boss hit me, the girlfriend left me, the job doesn't have enough money, the landlord's an asshole. It doesn't mean that. Your projection is suffering. Whoa! For real, you see it. Without a doubt, you see it. Does that make sense? You realize it, make it real. It is no longer a concept, it's no longer in the path of preparation. It is a fact for you right now. But how is it appearing? It's appearing falsely. This time you don't buy the bullshit, because you saw how it really is and you are clear. So the first thing you see is that you are a machine for suffering. Your world is suffering. Does that make sense? Did that hit home? Yeah, cool. Let's see what else they understand.
That's also empty though, right?
Of course it is. You see that, which comes to, you get to it.
Yeah, okay,
Stop.
okay, right. Those are perfect graphics.
Yeah. You lit the match.
Yeah, okay.
You are the cause of it. It's something in you, the misunderstanding that things somehow have a nature out there. That misunderstanding, that ignorance is what keeps you in the loop.
Yeah.
It's what creates that ignorance. It's what creates your suffering. Oh my, imagine knowing that for real. I am a machine for suffering. There is nothing that I'm not built for that is not creating suffering in the way it currently exists. It was never out there. Oh my God, I am forcing this experience because every action I have ever taken has ignorance in it, which means I pushed the old lady out of the way to get there first, and that's what forced me to get pushed out of the way. Yeah, I cheated on my partner in order to feel happiness in my sexual organs, and that's why my organs dropped off. I'm going to continue on. That was an extreme, okay? Not all organs drop off.
Really?
Actually, that's probably not true. See, over here, you realize that because you misunderstood the objects, you were acting towards them in a way that coded your mind. Your mind is configuring all your action as you're doing it. The imprints are being configured, and your mind is not exempt from causality. It's not exempt from cause and effect. So every configuration of action of body, speech, and mind that you're doing because you misunderstand the object is growing inside of you with the other trillion things you did with that mindset. So here we are just at the end of the path of seeing. Beings begin to have this individual analysis. They go, oh my God, I am projecting suffering. There is never suffering that was out there self-existently separate from me. But I thought there was. That's why I was punching people to get out of my way. I'm causing it. Yeah? I lit the fire. What's the next of the three 4 arrow truths?
There's a way out.
Mhm.
Suffering and
You see directly in that experience your own enlightenment. You see your own enlightenment. If you had the motivation of bodhicitta when you got there, you also see everybody else's brilliant face, every other being on the planet, and you have this unshakable love. That's ultimate bodhicitta, the direct perception of emptiness with everybody there, right? You see directly your own enlightenment. You see a whole bunch of other technical things. You get given a name, which is not your current name. You see how many lifetimes. Story. Me telling you the stories ain't going to convince you. But you have a direct experience of a Buddha. You see your own self as an enlightened being. You experience the Dharmakaya, which is the enlightened, the what part of it? It's the
wisdom body.
the wisdom body, right? It's the mind, it's the emptiness of the Buddha's mind. You see it. You have a direct communion with it. You lick the lemon. But no, it's probably not a good analogy. This lemon was peaceful. It gets your mouth watering. So at that point, you have some cessations at this point, which is no longer you doubt. You know that this is not a crazy hallucination. You know it as a fact. You stop doubt permanently after the path of seeing. You say, whoa, what I just saw is valid and true. It is a all-encompassing umbrella of reality, more than any other umbrella I saw before about encompassing reality. It explains everything without exception. All of a sudden, you have a cessation of doubt about the path. Plus, you saw yourself, how many lifetimes it would take for you to remove your mental obstacles. And then you see your own personal direct path to that enlightenment, to that nirvana. This is the 4 Arya truths. Why Arya truths and not noble truths? There's nothing noble about them all. I just realized these nobly. These are real experiences you have after communing with emptiness, if you will. Because of that direct experience with emptiness, you get this as a real embodied understanding of why your world is the way it is. And individual analysis means, what does it mean for me? How am I projecting samsara, my suffering? How am I causing it? What do I look like as an enlightened being? You get the real result refuge there. And then what do I need to do personally to get there? Am I getting there this lifetime? Am I getting there in 3 lifetimes? How long will it take me to cancel out or fry or undo the karmic seeds that are currently projecting suffering? How long will it take? How much power do I gain? How much faster can I get on this path to reach the ultimate goal? Yeah?
What does Arya mean?
Arya is the description of a person who has seen emptiness directly. I don't know, is it gone? I don't know the literal translation.
The first one is like the suffering. 2 is that there's a way out. 3,
2 is that you cause
2 is the causes of suffering, causes of suffering. There's a way out of suffering. Sorry, the cessation of suffering and the way out.
Oh, that there is a cause to suffering.
Yeah, is number 2. So yes, there's a fire in your head. You lit it. It's a match. You see yourself as a Buddha.
Yeah.
And then you get a car and go fast rather than slow towards there. If I needed to explain the metaphors.
Did you say something like it's possible to get like 2 but not 4 or something like that?
No, I made a mistake and nearly called them the 3 Arya truths, and so I was fixing my own mistake.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. I saw you looking at me when I said that, and I'm like, oops.
You were
Yeah. So I want to challenge you here, okay? Imagine you've got the impulse, the habit, the inertia in your consciousness to project suffering and the world coming this way. All of a sudden, something, your own virtue, your own goodness, your previous paths, your first 2 paths, deliver you to the 3rd path, and then you drop into these 4 realizations. You see clearly for the first time ever that you've never done an action in your world which had wisdom in it. You've never once had a correct perception of where the world really was coming from until this moment. But because of the inertia, the habit, the train of trillion lifetimes is still now reasserting itself as you come down from that experience, you begin to see the world actually coming back. Oh, there's a flower and there's a table. You begin to see it. And the big difference is now you don't believe it. That's why the speed car, because all of a sudden you now know how to get to enlightenment for sure. Not just, I've got to figure it out and rethink it, even though my habits tell me otherwise. Your habits are counterintuitive to nirvana. In other words, to get to nirvana, you have to do counterintuitive things to samsara. Does that make sense? Whatever impulse we have in samsara to get what we want or avoid what we don't want, you've got to do counterintuitive to that to get to nirvana. Make sense? So if the impulse is, you hurt me, I should hurt you back, wrong. Bless you. Yeah? That's difficult, people. Really difficult. in an intellectual way. If you study enough, if you get edged closer and closer, study enough and habituate and come to these classes or other classes that teach you this thing over and over and over, then eventually you'll believe it because you've studied it, and will become more habitual than the other way of looking at the world, until you begin to do it as second nature. And at some point, if you're fortunate enough, if you've learned to meditate, if you're meditating constantly, if you have a relationship with a teacher that can get you there faster, if you've been doing virtue in your world, really concerted effort to make a difference in your world, all those things come together and give you a realization of what you've been studying and habituating. And on the other side of that, you get this individual analysis. So the definition of nirvana now means, someone read it? That permanent cessation, meaning you're no longer projecting all the crap, yeah, of all your mental afflictions, finished.
In which one has eliminated the mental affliction?
Obstacles to this one, right? Mm-hmm.
In their entirety?
Yeah.
To one individual.
To an analysis of these four things. You see them for what they really are. So, Buddhism being Buddhism, there's so many different kinds of nirvana. Let me explain 3. Yeah. There's nirvana with something remaining. There's nirvana with nothing remaining. And the last one is nirvana that does not stay. That sounds weird, right? Let me tell you them quickly. Oh, actually, they're there, right?
Yep.
So you can reach a point where you no longer have mental afflictions, but you have a suffering body. Yeah, there's 5 heaps. Basically, those 5 heaps can be divided into 2, your mind and your body. Yeah. You got rid of your mental affliction obstacles. Your mind is pure. You see nirvana, but you've still got a body that was caused by suffering and has to go through the course until it pops away and you no longer see the suffering. No nirvana. Then the other one is, okay, you no longer have this body, either in this realm or a formless realm, or you pass away and you enter nirvana, where you experience your mind experiences nirvana, no problem. The last one is a little tricky. It is nirvana which does not stay in the extremes of, what are they? There? Yeah, it doesn't stay in samsara or a lower peace like these 2, my own personal nirvana. This is full enlightenment. This is Buddhahood. It's code for Buddhahood. But like that, there are other explanations, and it depends which school, and we're studying the middle way independent school, blah, blah, blah. Okay? Just know that when you study these things, when people say, are you enlightened? You have to ask them, do you mean with something remaining or without something remaining? Yeah. Then I thought from the reading, it's also in question 5, I'll show you this reading. Someone read it out loud, please.
Suppose you are able to analyze one by one those things that have no self, and after that you habituate yourself to what you analyzed individually.
Yeah.
This is what then leads you to achieve your freedom, nirvana beyond grief. It is impossible for any other cause to bring this peace to you.
So there's another division of how you get to nirvana, and it's summarized in this text in the reading, but I'll make it simple. Basically, it means emptiness, 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 emptiness. Like understand and study emptiness, and analyze wisdom. Yeah, do the path of preparation over and over and over and over. With that understanding, do the other 2 trainings, which is the trainings on ethics and the training of concentration. Learn to meditate and practice meditation, and only once you become familiar with those things, you will have an experience that will free you from suffering. Is that cool? Cool. Which is that summarized. I didn't know I did that. Good, I did that. I like that you all seem to be engaged when I covered the 4 Arya truths, because I think for the first time, or maybe currently, you're thinking, "Ooh, that's a possibility." Based on what we've understood so far about the nature of how things exist intellectually, I could see how I am a projector for suffering. If I stop the things that are projecting, suffering can stop. Whoa. That's possible, right? Intellectually. And you got a sense that if someone has that experience viscerally, it's possible for you too. That's good. However, we're wired for mental afflictions, right? We discovered that at the beginning. You think Hector's sitting out here teaching something. Words are telling you stuff. Some of you are bored shitless and going, oh, when he'll stop, it's 15 minutes before the end of class. Will it be on time or will it be later? Some of you are going, no, I want more of this because I nearly got it. Some of you are like, I wonder what's for dinner. Seriously, yeah? And some of you are like, I can't miss it. I can't miss it. I feel bad. I always miss it. I'm terrible. I'm a bad person. You're doing your own stuff.
But isn't the perception of Hector being there teaching Buddhism, that's a valid perception?
Is Hector here teaching Buddhism?
Yes. Yes and no.
Cool. There are two Hectors in the room, right? The one that your mind would have you believe is sitting out here independently, that if anybody walked in here would see Hector teaching Buddhism.
Right.
And then the real Hector that's teaching Buddhism, which is the only one that could ever exist, which is the one you're forced to project, right? So the language sucks for us because when we say you're projecting it, somehow it shows volition, like, oh, I can choose it. And you can't choose it. This Hector's teaching Buddhism, whether you like it or not. And it's your Hector. Sorry, I'm having my own Hector teach Buddhism, right? And you're having your own. And that's the only Hector teaching Buddhism. There was never another Hector. We have to understand the one that we think is there teaching Buddhism that doesn't exist. The flower that's out there that doesn't exist. The one that's causing us to, that misunderstanding that's causing us to plant the seeds with the problem that create a broken world. We have to know what a self-existent, non-caused Hector would look like in order to find it in our Vipassana meditation. Yeah, in order to identify the one that doesn't exist, we should know what that would look like if it did exist. Does that make sense? Good. It's a catch-22, right? You have to know what a purple elephant looks like in order to identify there ain't purple elephants here. If I tried to say to you, and you've got zero conception of what the word purple elephant mean, if I said to you, find me the purple elephant, and you don't know what purple elephant means, you'd be looking forever. You would never come to a knowing that there's no purple elephant until you knew what purple elephant meant. Now, once you have a purple elephant construct in your mind, once you have that, then you could look around here and say, is there here a purple elephant? And then it wouldn't take too long for you to say no, unless you think I'm an elephant. Yeah?
Why are you saying it?
Because the word purple elephant don't necessarily conjure up a purple elephant. For a person that speaks Spanish, they're just purple elephant, purple elephant, purple elephant. It's just sound. But you see, you all have purple elephant in your mind because you speak English. Those words don't produce the construct purple elephant. They are your projection on those sounds. Those sounds are empty of conjuring up purple elephant. We studied that in the course 15. Is that right?
13.
13? No. Mind only school.
That's
15. That constructs don't.
Oh yeah.
Hey. Okay, so let's go. Gak ja. Gak ja. Gak is deny. Ja is object. We're talking about purple elephants. To get your brains going, there are 3 groupings of all the people that interpreted the Buddhist teachings and went around going, I figured it out. There's 3 groupings, right? And they're all about no self or emptiness and all about dependent origination, karma. But they Remember we taught this, I think, I taught this class 1, I think, yeah, in this course, where we looked at the functionalists, then the independent, and then consequence. Cool. Okay, so good. So there are a bunch of people that think when we say no self, that things are empty, right? They are.
Or less, like.
They're dependent on their causes and conditions.
Excellent. That, I better ask it a different way. When things are dependently arising, things appear, things are, they are dependent on causes and conditions. Is that up there? Not yet. The other group of all the people that have been studying these things and trying to make sense of them, when people say, what's all this stuff in this universe? It is dependent arising. They say a little bit more subtle than causes and conditions, the soil and this, a bit more subtle would explain everything, are parts. Things are dependent on their parts. And the last group of people, the Madhyamika Prasangika, would say, they're all okay, but you're missing a big point. They are dependent on your projections, perceptions, yet forced upon you by your past karma. So the gaccha, the thing we need to find out what it would look like if it did exist, the self-existent thing, yeah, the thing that existed by itself, the flower that could ever exist without you perceiving it as flower. An object that was flower regardless of any creature looking, smelling it, touching it. That kind of flower in the first one would be one that was the gaccha in the first school of thinking, where things depend on their causes and conditions, would be a flower that would come about that had no seed or water, or it didn't depend on anything coming together to produce a flower. That kind of flower doesn't exist. That's okay. Boring. Does it help you? Not really. What would the second school say, depending on its parts? A flower that could be called a flower by absolutely everyone else, that was a flower without having its parts, petals and leaves and stems and so on. DNA, etc. That kind of flower that did not have those parts could never exist. Cool, no problem, big deal, doesn't help me get out of suffering. So what? You have to go and find out every atom that produced everything. Okay, it's a good way to explain dependent origination. Doesn't help you get out of suffering. But if you want to explain a self-existent thing for those two schools, that's a good way. Now the third one is, oh look, there's a purple elephant in the room. A flower that could exist without your mind projecting onto it flower. This object that would always be flower if there were no humans in the room, that is the gaccha. That is the object we deny. There could never be this thing as flower separate from minds projecting flower. That can help me, because if we then find out what the hell made it flower, and can it be poison? Yes. And can it be blissful? Yes. And can it be more than flower? Yes. Then we want to go and find out what is causing that stuff. And that's the technology of karma-dependent origination. That is why virtue is connected to this practice. Doing good in your world, putting good in your mind with the highest good, including the highest wisdom, will and must necessarily produce a projection which is equal and bigger than that good. So you want to see this as a magic wand that saves AIDS? You can plant the causes for one day this object producing that result. Because it's empty. All of a sudden, that explanation helps. But in order to see what things are empty of, the gaccha, the object we deny, we must imagine what it would look like, and we just did, right? That's question 5 in your homework. I think I did that. So I also did that, the impossible thing, right? An impossible flower would be a flower that existed separate from you being forced to call it flower. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, It's the third of those explanations. I just went the first, the functionalist, the independent, and now we're on the minority. So to give you an example of analogies relating to three kinds of beings who are understanding emptiness or not understanding emptiness of objects, we have to go to the famous example of magic show. I love that you're like rolling your eyes. So this will give you a quick metaphor for a being who has seen emptiness directly. There are three kinds of beings. You could divide beings into three kinds. Mexican jumping beings. No. Beings who have seen emptiness. Spanish. Beings who have not seen emptiness. So K-War, I think that's what they were. Let me just Kiewa. Beings, assuming we're normal, beings who don't understand the emptiness stuff, haven't seen it. There's those beings, people that are forever in the cycle, beings who have had a direct experience of emptiness. Yeah, let's say bodhisattvas with the experience of emptiness if we're doing Mahayana. And not quite a Buddha yet, and beings who are in the direct perception of emptiness, right? So you could say at any one point you could be in any of these three spaces. You could be in the direct perception of emptiness, but not yet a Buddha. You could be, I don't know why that's important in the example, but it is. Beings who don't have a clue where the world is coming from and to see what they experience and believe that to be true. And beings who have seen emptiness but aren't seeing emptiness at the moment.
If it was a Buddha, wouldn't they be seeing both at once?
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, thank you. So there's in India, and we see it in Nepal sometimes, let's go quickly through the analogy. There's a magician who usually comes to a square and a bunch of people gather, and he throws a stick in the ground, right? And he has some magic dust, or she has some magic dust, yeah, which forces everybody to experience the stick, creates an illusion for them to experience it as a horse or a cow. Yeah? Is that what we're up to? Yeah. So all of a sudden, the beings that are watching that got sprinkled with the magic dust see a cow. All of a sudden, a dude or dudess walks past who wasn't affected by the magic dust, right? What would they see? Good call. What would the magician see?
A cow.
He sees the cow, but not.
Huh?
He sees the cow, but not.
Why do they see the cow?
Because they also were affected.
They were also affected, but they are the magician. So they know it's a stick, right? But they see a cow. Yeah? Now, based on what I just told you about the 5 paths and the direct perception of emptiness and the 4 Arya truths, give me the person here who is one of those 3 types of people, a being who has seen emptiness directly, but is out of that experience.
The magician.
Why?
Because he knows what reality is, but it might not.
But it's still forcing itself upon them
Right.
as fake reality. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You've had a direct perception of emptiness. This can't possibly be a flower in the suffering world that will end from its own side. All of that is coming from me, but I still see it that way. Yeah? Cool. Who's in the direct perception of emptiness? Who's seeing the ultimate nature of things? The new guy, right? He sees what it ultimately is, which is just a stick. And who's not in the direct perception of emptiness and never seen it? The beings in the spell. Yeah? Now, in the last few minutes, I'm going to cover this. I'm going to suggest you go and study this online, but I'll give you one of the many proofs of emptiness, the things we should meditate on. And not just meditate, contemplate as we're walking around, right? The proof of one or many. That's one of the 5 proofs we've covered in this course, right? Simply speaking, is this one thing? It's a pen, isn't it? You think it's a pen. Is that true or not? You don't think it's a pen? Come on, you think it's a pen? Yeah, you do, right? A pen, one thing, right? Basically, the proof of one or many, and it goes through logical proof, which we did in course 13, is saying we can't possibly experience a singular thing if the singular thing is made up of parts. Yeah, we can say it's a pen, but our mind is going to the top of the pen and the bottom of the pen and constructing pen. It's either one thing or many things. It can't be both. And if you say, well, what about this? This has the top of it and the bottom of it, our mind puts it together. What about an atom? Well, an atom has subatomic parts. What if you find the smallest part of the smallest part of all the smallest parts you could ever find in our physical world?
Still has left.
It still would have a left side and a right side. Otherwise, things would never touch. You can't say there's something to the left of it and something to the right of it. So it's indivisible. As soon as you disprove that you can't be looking at a pen, because you must be looking at the top, at the bottom, or at its parts and putting it together. What is it that's putting it together? What exactly? With the understanding of projections, then all of a sudden you realize that your mind, usually your monkey mind, is projecting that. And that's true of you as a person. I don't mean your body. I mean you as a person, mind and body. And that's true of your mind, moments of mind. Yeah? If that's true there, the emptiness of you and the projection of you, if you've proved that it ain't one thing because it's made up of many things, then if you go to course, I think it's 13. I think it's 13. All existing things. You know that chart of all existing things? There is everything, and then you can divide it with changing and unchanging things. And you can use the proof of one or many to all the changing things. Oh, what are the changing things? Physical, non-physical, and neither. You can go into that. What about physical? Subtle and obvious, or whatever, gross, physical. You can go to every one of those sub-things and come to realize that there's nothing under your experience that is not like this, empty of having a nature. And something in you is producing that nature. Then lastly, I need to tell you about Rachel's dentist, whose name happens to be Maitreya.
Yeah.
Is it actually?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've just got a dentist called Maitreya, who asked her to show him
The refuge.
the refuge
that
prayer.
I
Anyway,
did offer them on the way.
there's a debate in the text that brings into question whether Maitreya's text should be referenced here, and someone asks the question in the debate of Buddha Maitreya, and then there's a debate about you can't say it's Buddha Maitreya unless you practice Tantra, because you can't mix Tantra and Sutra, blah, blah, blah. But in essence, I want to tell you that Lord Maitreya, or in the text, Tantra, or the fastest track out after you've seen emptiness directly, and that's why I didn't answer your question about completion, is because Sutra and Tantra are different things. One's based on the other. And the secret teachings or tantric teachings are the speed rocket that get you to go through these realizations and hopefully, if you know what you're doing, reach enlightenment, change your projections in this one lifetime. So before your body's finished, you can perceive this world as an enlightened being. Yeah. And they say for Tantra to work, it needs to be spoken by someone with high spiritual blah, blah, blah. You get the answer over there. Next thing I want to tell you about. Can I get 5 minutes from you? Yes. I usually am not good at these things, but I'm going to be good at it today, right? The 3 Jewels has just launched a most incredible and amazing thing called the 30-day meditation challenge. 30 days meditation for good. Who's heard about this? Who has not heard about this? Cool. Let me tell you. We've decided in all our wisdom that it would be really cool that if people that we know, i.e. you that come here, and those others that come here, and anybody else that's interested in meditation in your life, individually try to improve our minds by meditating consistently for 30 minutes a day, not all at once if you don't know how. 10 minutes 3 times a day is fine, or 50 minutes twice a day is fine. to get your mind to a state of meditation over 30 days. And we thought it'd also be a good idea to put two things together and help us fundraise for the move to the new location. We've made it really simple and online for anybody that is interested in helping the 3 jewels. Practice your meditation, get your meditation good and healthy, and change your mind for 30 days. Challenge yourself, but don't just do it with the motivation of just that. Why not announce it to your friends and family and people that support you and say, support me in this 30-day meditation challenge. I want to help the 3 jewels move to the new location and be stable in that new location over the next year. So we're proposing that anybody that's interested in doing the meditation challenge, Meditate for Good, and wants to fundraise, there's a system that we've got online. You promote it to you. This is one example of someone who has already started the meditation challenge. He's put it out. This is Stephen, if you don't know who Stephen is. Yeah. He's put that challenge out to his social network, and we'll try and we're suggesting everybody try and raise $1,500. That's 15 people give you $100 each to meditate for 30 days. So that money can help the 3 jewels stabilize itself in the new location once we move, continue the teaching meditation for free, giving meditation and yoga to homeless people here and in Nepal, and all the amazing things we do at the 3 jewels, and give these classes for free and keep paying the rent, etc. We need, as the 3 jewels, some kind of stable financial basis between now and December, so we can, when we move to the new location, we can really be stable there. So we're suggesting if anybody wants to join, you can just ask 15 people to give you $100 each in your world, and if just 50 people did that, we'd be covered for rent for about 8 months, 7 months. Yeah. And that would really help. Now, on the side, you are improving your mind through meditating, and you're telling everybody that's watching you that you can control your mind and bring your mind to a state of meditation, and maybe, just maybe, you'll inspire other people to meditate too. Because if Anthony did it, he'd be going, hey, everybody, help me do it. And then they'll give him some cash. And that's nice for the 3 jewels, but they'll also say, well, he's meditating and he's connected to Stephen, who's also doing it. And every day people are posting going, I did my 30 minutes today, help the 3 jewels because, yeah, or I did my 30 minutes today. It was a really shitty meditation, but I'm trying it tomorrow. And you and your world will see the difference in your mind between start to finish. So I'm inviting you, encouraging you, if you want to, talk to Rachel or Sarah or Stephen or me to start your 30-day meditation challenge. What it would look like, I think it's this. Is it up there?
Yep.
There?
Yep.
Sorry. My neck is broken. I can't even see it. There we go. It looks like this. You click 3 buttons and you'll end up creating a page all on your own. I decided not to raise 1,500, but at least 5,000. I'll reach out to all my workmates, whatever. All this is pre-filled in. It looks like that. And then you send a link and people just donate there, and it's very simple. So that's what it would look like for you if you're interested. If you are, to do the challenge, good. If you don't want to fundraise, that's cool as well, but I'd like you to. And on that note, let's finish and meditate. Yeah.
Can I add?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you wanna do the challenge, you can come to one of us. We can help you sign up like now. If that's not an option for you and you have to run out of class, it's right on the 3 Jewels website. You just click the contribute button on the upper right hand side. If you decide to do that, you will get an email from me via 3 Jewels email address with a link to guided meditations, how to meditate. Like if your practice isn't at 30 minutes a day, or you're not really sure, or it's a little bit confusing, we have this whole page constructed for you with guided, like Hector recorded a guided meditation. We have a few more, and I'll also be sending out suggested social media posts. So if it's difficult for you to kind of think like, how am I going to communicate this to people? I'm trying to brainstorm and send out templates to make that as easy as possible. And hashtags are included in that for those of you who are getting into Instagram. So that's my little
But
plus.
in essence, you would for 30 days go click picture of me meditating, or I just finished a meditation, or a little video, or a little blur,
Yeah.
and just telling people every day you're meditating. You're
We
meditating.
keep that journal on that website, not on Facebook.
Yeah, I don't want to call it as a journal. It's just you sharing with people to inspire them to meditate too.
There's like a little area.
Yeah, on your own page. Yeah, so people would go and see your own page. You want to do this part? Thank you. Pugia Jishin Matotram Rira Linshin Yindem Padi Sangye Shindu Mite Duarki Robin Namda Shinla Chuparsho Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami Didyokum Sunam Yashe Sotsoshin Sunam Yashe Junwe Dampatuni Kaparsho. Thank you so much for being part of this awesome community and for taking these classes. They have the potential to transform the world. And I hope you use that potential. Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure to teach you.
Please stay.
Do the 30-day challenge if you can, please. We need it. Yeah, I usually don't ask, but we need it. Yeah, the 3 Jewels needs it so it can continue. We've been here 21 years.
Also brings virtue to those who are able to donate through you.
My meditation, I have to say, so we know that like ethics affects your meditation, right? And especially if you've done the classes with Chinzum, like she talks about that a lot. My meditation has skyrocketed since the beginning of this challenge. Like I don't, it's so weird, but like since I was like, I am doing this for 3 Jewels, I've been sitting down. I've even been crossing my left leg up, which I never do, and I can sit for 30 minutes straight, which I've almost never been able to do in the course of like my entire time meditating. So the virtue that it brings like has tangible results. So like even if you're like curious about whether or not that's true, you can try it.